You know, it boggles my mind how Americans are just now opening their eyes to learning that our government has been screwing us over for years. They pull the wool over our eyes for years, and only a few I call with the third eye that have been seeing and ranting about this for years. And people looked at them as they were just talking to be talking. They don't know what they're talking about, or just, blew them off eventually. But this has been going on for years. And this is why they try to keep the countries separated. If I tell you this is going on over here, and I pull the wool over your eyes and then tell you what's happening over here in our country, you won't know the truth about what's going on over there. You telling me these people over here are no good, they mean us no good, that they hate us, they think this of us, they think that of us. The both countries are at odds with things. Over here they're tyrants. They don't treat their people well. They live in slums. Their education system is blah. They don't get the same opportunities as the Americans get. Lo and behold, you guys found Red Note, and you get to see what goes on firsthand on the other side. In 2019, I took 10 trips out of the country, and I got to see how others lived. I got to see other countries and politically what goes on in other countries and how they lived. So I knew, I knew that the food was cheaper in other countries. I knew that the housing was cheaper in other countries. Now, mind you, they have their flaws. They have their flaws, but they didn't work as hard for years as the Americans. Okay? 2 and 3 jobs, and you barely still making it. God forbid you're a single parent and have to work 2 or 3 jobs. Who's raising your kids while you're doing all this working? Me, myself, am a product of that. I had to help somebody raise my kids for years while I worked to be able to pay rent, pay electric, pay gas, pay a car note, pay insurance, keep food on the table, while somebody else was helping me raise my kids. The first few years of my kid's life, I was not there because I was too busy working, trying to make sure that we had a roof over our head. Okay? So I'm not understanding, well, I can't understand why Americans never knew that in China that they lived a cushy life. And the whole time China thinking Americans are lazy, uneducated. They didn't realize we had to work 2 and 3 jobs to keep a roof over our head. We get our little 15-minute and half an hour breaks for lunch and then right back to work. And when you leave that workplace, you have to hurriedly get to another workplace, clock in there, and do the same thing over again just to get your paycheck at the end of the week or every 2 weeks and disperse it out to bills after you pay your enormous amount of taxes. Now, shall we talk about insurance? Health insurance? Health insurance that gets taken out of your check every pay period just for you to go to doctors. pay again out of pocket, and still pay high amounts of money for your prescriptions. It's an ever revolving, ever ending cycle of the money that you worked hard for being ripped from your hands. And the same thing with property taxes. You purchase a home, you're still paying for that mortgage. Then you have to pay insurance on that particular home. And say you pay off that home, you're still paying taxes on a home that's already paid off. And God forbid you fall behind on those taxes. So a home that you spent 30 years paying for, 15 to 30 years paying for, you ultimately lose because you fell behind on the taxes. Wait till you realize about retirement. That's going to be the kicker. Wait till you realize about retirement. How some retirees are forced to go back to work at 65, 67 to 70 years old. How they are forced to go back to work because the retirement that they ultimately paid into all those years is being taxed to hell. And that the Medicaid that they paid into all those years, they still have to pay partially for that Medicaid. And that Medicaid does not cover at least 75% of the medications, providing you get sick. So you're still paying out of pocket for medications. So if you say between the age of 25 up to when you retire, don't put all your eggs in a basket. Set yourself up and your retirement set up and your IRA set up to where you're not forced to go back to work after you retire and you realize, I can't afford to live in an apartment. I can't afford to live in my home that I paid 30 years for. I can't afford to feed myself. I can't afford my blood pressure medication. If you don't set yourself up to actually retire, you're going to be forced to go back to work until you pass away. You want to know the reason why they keep raising the age of retirement? It's because the United States is broke. They're in debt, and they have always been in debt. See, all the money, the billions of dollars that you're sending to other countries to fund wars, that's our money. That's our money. Okay? They owe other people money. So you think it's a coincidence that they opened up the borders to allow all these immigrants to come in? You want to know why? Because they already worked the Americans to the bone. So they let all these immigrants in so they could work them to the bone. See, they coming over here thinking this is the land of the free. And you get all this free stuff. You get the free money. You get the food stamps. You get the free housing. No, they setting you up. They setting them up to come into the United States. They veer them in with the concept of, oh, this is free, that is free, that is free. They get them here, provide jobs for them, and then work the hell out of them too. And tax them. Because they can't tax us no more than they already taxing us. They need new people to tax. So they let thousands upon thousands of immigrants in the country. You see where I'm going with this? They need more money. So they're going to set all these people up with jobs. And then tax those people also. So they can pay their debt or get out of debt or do what they please with the money. When they say the United States is a corporation, they weren't lying. We're just little worker bees. And I keep saying that the middle class is the new poor. Nobody's getting that concept when I say that. The middle class in America is the new poor. Now that's a concept to think about. It's not meant for us to live comfortable. They don't want us to get comfortable. They want us to continue working so they can continue to tax us and do what they please with our money. Meanwhile, their kids are going to college to learn political science. So when their kids get of age, they're going to be congressmen and congresswomen. They're keeping their money in the family. In the meantime, you're struggling to send your kids to college. Some of them having to drop out and come home and help so you won't lose your homes or lose your land or help the family out. You're sending your kids to college to ultimately get a degree in a job that they are overtaxing, or get a degree in a job that's no longer available, or get the job and it's not paying what they thought it was going to pay. So you're right back in the pot with the rest of us. College degrees, working long hours, 2 and 3 jobs. You see the cycle? And of course, they don't want you on Red Note because they don't want you to see how well other countries treat their people. This is why they try to keep us separated. And of course, Japan is going to look out for their citizens. And don't think they're not watching closely, because they don't want the Americans to come over there on that app and taint the minds of their people. They don't want their people Americanized. You guys, I'm glad you're waking up. And those that's not woke, open that third eye. Everything that seems real here in America is not. It's all a facade. It's all a facade. Nobody's thinking about retirement at this day and age. I took care of a man. I walked in his room and he was crying hysterically. He was 65 at the time, 65 years old, crying hysterically. This is a man who had to be on oxygen the rest of his life at 65 years old. He could not come off the oxygen or he would demise, okay? And I asked him, why are you crying? Are you in pain? He says, Liz, no, I'm not in pain. He says, I just want you to know that I worked hard all my life. He says, nobody ever gave me nothing. I worked hard all my life just to wind up in a facility that I can no longer go home. The money that I put aside for retirement is now going to be used to pay for my stay and my care in the facility. He said, this is my life now. He said, I looked forward to retiring. I was so tired, but I kept going because I was looking forward to my retirement. And this is the end result. That day, that man broke my heart because I sat and I thought about what he was saying, and I started putting two and two together as far as retirement. Their plan is to work you to death when it comes down, especially down to that Social Security. Their plan is to work you to death. This is why they, again, want to raise the age of retirement, because they weren't expecting people to live to 65. Hence the bad food that they're poisoning us with. Hence, this is why they don't tell you or teach you how to be healthy and stay healthy. Hence is why when you go to the doctor about a serious issue that you're having with your body, they only put a Band-Aid on it and tell you, okay, go home and take this medication and that medication, not knowing that the medications that they give you causes other problems within your body. Then you have to go back to the doctors and try to fix the problems that medication that they prescribe you is causing. They put a Band-Aid on you, send you on with another prescription that you fill out, ultimately take that medication, and then that medication causes a side effect, and then you go back to the doctors. You see the wheel? Everybody is in it for the money. It's a money grab all the way around. Now back to Social Security. You weren't expected to live to 65. So they want to raise it to 70. And the reason why is they raise it to 70. You work yourself to death, again, working 2 and 3 jobs because you can't afford to survive off of one job. So you're overly working yourself, overly working your body. Your body is breaking down. The doctors aren't helping you. The medications aren't helping you. And then you ultimately pass on. And guess what happens to your Social Security? All those years that you worked hard, 2 and 3 jobs, guess what happens to that money? It goes back into the pot. They don't have to pay it out. It's not going to get paid out. Who are they paying it to? Your kids are grown. If your spouse has Social Security, they're not going to give him your Social Security. It's either he takes yours or you take his. It's not you're going to get both. If you're single, your money goes directly back into the pot. You see the scenario? Guys, educate yourself on what the government does. Nobody ever sat back and actually show interest in politics. Show interest in the bills that they're passing. Politics has never been their thing. But my mother always said, when you see people move, you move. When you see them take a step, you take a step. You be on their heels. When they talk, you listen. Because when people talk, people don't be listening. They disregard a lot of things that they say, or it goes over their head because they're not educated enough on what they're talking about, or they don't want to hear what they're talking about. But my mother always said, when people talk, listen. Okay?